everyone, Jennifer here, back with another edition of TV Talk. It's Sunday, and that means it's Horsland Day. And this week's episode was Win Some, Lose Some. When a big show jumping event comes up, Alma and her horse Buttons are the ones that the Horsland girls are expecting to bring home a first place ribbon. However, Alma doesn't believe that she needs to practice as she and Buttons are the best jumpers at Horsland. But what happens when the course is suddenly changed at the last minute? Okay, things I liked about this episode. First off, I liked the storyline. We actually get to know a little bit more about the characters, particularly the girls. We don't really see the boys in here, but the only two boys we actually see in this episode are Shep the dog and Chili, one of the Staten girls' horses. I forget which one. But we don't see Aztec, we don't see Jimber, we don't see Bailey, we don't see Will. They're not in this episode. It's mostly the girls and their horses, and then Shep, Teeny, and Angora. So the focus was more on the girls than the boys. Horsland is probably more targeted at girls than boys. Hence the more girl characters in the show than anything else. Then, the boy characters is really only the two boy characters, unless you want to throw the horses in there. Second off, we are not at Horsland the entire time. We start out at Horsland, and then we see the girls and their horses at another location, and, Shep and Angora and Teeny at another location for the show jumping event. So this isn't an event that was held at Horsland. They actually had to transport their horses via a horse trailer to the event. We will have a few episodes where a good chunk of the story will take place away from Horsland, but for the most part it will be at Horsland. This is the first one that was not at Horsland. Primarily, like I said, we started out at Horsland, but it wasn't primarily at Horsland. The second thing I liked about this episode was really the lesson that was in here. Alma was the one who had to learn a lesson in this episode. Sometimes it's, all of them learn a lesson. Like in the last video, you can't judge a girl by her limo, where, well, it wasn't all of them, but it was more than one of them. It was, Bailey and Alma and Molly who had to learn the lesson, and, Aztec and Jimber and Buttons and Calypso, who had to learn the lesson about not judging someone before you know all the facts. Sometimes they all learn a lesson, like the whole group does. Sometimes it's just one or two. In this one, it was just Molly. Or not Molly, Alma, excuse me. I got my characters mixed up. So it was just Molly, or Alma, who learned a lesson. And it's presented fairly early. Actually, she learns two lessons in this episode. The first one is to not be overconfident. As I stated, Alma decided that because she and Buttons are the best jumping team at Horsland, they don't need to practice. So she skipped a lot of practicing. So part of the lesson she learned is, and it's not really stated in the episode, but it's something that I kind of picked up on, is no matter how good you are, you still have to practice. I mean, professional athletes, they don't just step out on the field every game without practicing and play a game. They practice in between the games. I mean, yeah, they're good. They're the best out there, but they still have to practice. The athletes who participate in the Olympics, they don't go on the Olympic field in between tryouts and the Olympics and perform their sport. They practice because they're going up against the best of the best in the world. So they practice to make sure that they are in top form for their event. Athletes practice to make sure they're in top form for their game. It's the same thing. No matter how good you are, you could be the best one on the team. You still have to practice. You cannot skip practicing, because if you skip practicing, you may learn new plays. You may not learn new plays. You may not learn new strategies. And you are definitely not going to be at your best. You're not going to be in your top form, at your top form. And you don't know, you may learn something about the person you're competing against while practicing, and it's just, that can help you do better. Not necessarily against that person, but just can help you do better in your event. And the other lesson that Alma kind of learns, which is the one that's really spelled out, and it's not phrased this way, so I'm going to phrase it the way that I see it, and then I'm going to phrase it the way that it's done in the episode. The way I read into it was to always try your best, whether you come out the winner or come out a little further down the line. Which is true. You need to try your best no matter what. If you try your best, you're always going to be a winner. The way they phrased it in the show is that you should only compete against yourself and strive for your personal best, which is basically, it's the same thing, it's just phrased differently. As an example, my dad used to sail. He had a sailboat and he loved to sail. We would go out on the boat every summer, and it was fun. It was family time on the water, and it was like a lot of fun, as you can imagine. He was also part of a sail club that did racing on Wednesday nights and Sundays afternoons. And I really didn't get to see him much after the races on Wednesday nights, because they were sunset races. It was after midnight by the time he got home. But every time I saw him after a race, I always would ask him, did you win? Sometimes he would say yes. Most times he would say no. And then I would say, well, did you have fun? And he would always say yes. And that's the whole point of the thing. He had fun. So whether he won or he didn't, he had fun. So he was a winner, because he went out there and he just had fun. It was the same thing. He did the Mackinac race about 6 years ago, I think. Yeah, 6 years ago, this coming summer. And he didn't win the Mackinac race, but he had fun doing it. It was a race he always wanted to do. And really, he and my uncle, who also race, were on different boats. So they were really more racing against each other. And my dad actually beat my uncle. So he was so happy, because he didn't win the race, but he beat my uncle. And I know it doesn't go into there, but it's just really more of the friendly competition thing going on. And again, it's like he felt like a winner. He didn't win the race, but he did his best. And, bonus, friendly competition, he did come in probably a little bit ahead of my uncle, and he had a lot of fun doing it on top of that. Like I stated before, this was a race he always wanted to do. It was what we called one of his bucket list races, and he had so much fun doing it, and whatnot. But it goes to the same thing. It's not show jumping with horses, it's sailboat racing, but it's the same principle. He went out there, he had fun. If, in this episode, if Alma had just gone on that course and went out there to have fun, she probably would have done a lot better. But she was focused on beating Chloe and Zoe. And she didn't do very well because of that. Okay, things I didn't like about this episode. There really wasn't a lot I didn't like about this episode. Sorry, that was my cat. In all honesty, there really wasn't a lot I didn't like about this episode. I thought they did a very good job of getting the two lessons across. Whether the first one was intentional or not, I do not know. But they did a very good job of getting them both across, and I really liked that. I would have liked to have seen all the characters in this episode. I mean, they don't have a big character pool, so they feasibly could have had the boys in this episode. But, you know, all in all, it wasn't a big deal that the boys weren't in it. I think they were just trying to narrow it down a little bit. With the girls, we will see more episodes with Bailey and Will in it. Sometimes you'll see episodes with them in there. Sometimes you'll see episodes with just the girls and Bailey. Sometimes you'll see episodes with just the girls. It's just, that's just the way the show goes. But as I said, really nothing I didn't like about this episode. It was a very good episode. Very, very well written. Very well thought out. And I loved how they basically ended it. I'm not going to say how, but I do like how they ended it. Okay, feel free to check out my other videos. Okay, before I sign off, a few things I'd like to touch on. First off, a quick reminder on my comment rules. Okay, feel free to leave your comments and questions in the comment section. I do love to read those. Also, feel free to follow me on Wattpad, Tumblr, Instagram, and Twitter. I do have my name for those 4 sites right there on the screen, as well as the pictures I use for the icons. Please note that all pictures seen within this video do belong to their respected artists. I own absolutely nothing. And the links for any sites mentioned in this video will be in the description section, if that makes it any easier for you guys to locate me. Okay, YouTube subscribers. Any of my videos that are not on YouTube are on my Facebook page. Facebook friends, basically the same deal. Any of my videos that are not on my Facebook page are on my YouTube channel. And to anyone who's interested, you can feel free to check out my Facebook group, Fanfic Corner. Okay, please like and share if you're watching on Facebook, or like and subscribe if you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube. And as always, thank you for watching, and have a very nice day.